Yo, what's good, y'all? I'm JBHOOPS, and today I got a breakdown video on one of the top prospects in this year's draft, Keegan Murray, the sophomore out of Iowa. He's a 21-year-old 6'8" power forward with a 6'11" wingspan. On the season for Iowa, he averaged 23.5 points per game, one of the best scorers in the nation, 8.7 rebounds, and 1.5 assists, but also 1.3 steals and 1.9 blocks on the defensive end, all while shooting 55% from the field, a blistering hot 40% from deep, and a very solid 75% from the stripe. So the first thing I want to talk about is his three-point shooting. Keegan Murray is a very good shooter and shot 40% from three this season. Most of his threes are assisted, but I think that'll be similar to what most of the shots he gets in the league are. He's effective as a spot-up shooter, but he could also be used as a pick-and-pop option in the NBA. Keegan Murray has a smooth jumper with a high enough release point. However, it does take him a little longer than you'd like for him to set it up and start his jump shot. So that just does mean it can get contested a little easier, so he does need a little bit more space than some others. But in saying that, I also believe he has upside as a movement shooter, given his great footwork to get on balance and get his shot started. He was great this year at coming off stagger screens and getting into his shot, and he was able to knock down his threes at 40%, which is pretty crazy for someone who was carrying his team and was one of the most high usage guy in all of college basketball, so he always had the defenses locked in on him. Now on the other end of the floor, Keegan Murray is a pretty solid defender. He's a good athlete with a great second jump ability, but I think where he's most valuable is his help defense. He's very high IQ and is a great help side shot blocker. On the season this year, he averaged 1.3 steals and 1.9 blocks, which is pretty impressive. He also has solid enough foot speed to guard quicker players, he flips his hips well, and he's pretty good at shutting off driving lanes and forcing players into bad shots, whilst contesting without fouling. He might struggle to guard quicker and more athletic NBA athletes, and sometimes he just isn't switched on, his stance gets too high, and he just gets beat off the dribble because of it. Then there's also other times where he just gives up backdoor cuts and just isn't alert off the ball. And there's even a few times I've just seen him wander into no man's land and just give up a passing or driving lane. So there is a few concerns I have there. As well as a rim protector, I don't think he can be a small ball 5 in the NBA, just because he doesn't really have the reaction time and reflexes to protect the rim. He's good at contesting vertically, but when guards are attacking him, he just can't get up quick enough to contest. So that's why I think on defense he'll be more useful as a help side defender and someone who mainly plays the power forward position. But in saying he has bad reflexes protecting the rim, he's great at anticipating and picking off passes in the lanes, so I kind of contradicted myself there, but he's been pretty good at racking up steals and getting easy buckets in transition. Next up, I want to talk about his finishing ability, which is where the majority of his points came from this year at Iowa. He's a very good athlete and just runs the floor really well. He's very impressive in transition and in grab and go scenario off defensive rebounds and stops. He's just a mismatch anywhere he goes. He's too big for wings and will just bully them inside, but he's also too quick for bigs and he'll just be able to get right past them. He shot about 71% for the season at the rim, which is very impressive, and a lot of that comes from his great footwork in the post and on drives. A lot of the time he uses his signature move, which is his spin back going right, and overall he's just excellent in the post, but I don't think he'll be as much of a part of his game as it is in college in the NBA. But in saying that, he'll get a few possessions down there and be able to maximize them when he gets the opportunity. He's also great at drawing fouls and getting to the line. For the season he averaged 5.4 attempts and hit 75% of them, which is pretty solid. And he's also a very good offensive rebounder, averaging almost 3 a game. So whilst he can score on the outside, he's also a monster on the inside, just making him so much harder to defend. Now I want to talk about some of the weaker parts of his game. First up, his shot creation ability. Because he's not super athletic and doesn't have a great handle, sometimes he just struggles to create his own shot. He operates quite similar to Tobias Harris and also Pascal Siakam, but I think Siakam has a much better handle. He's not really quick with his dribble moves, and at times he just gets predictable and it's just simple to defend. He lacks the shiftiness and explosion to blow by good defenders, and I think there'll be a slight issue in the league, but against worse defenders, smaller guys, or slower bigs, he has a solid enough handle to beat his matchup off the dribble. He has a few moves in his bag, and a few times he showed his tough shot making ability with a few step backs, and just showing off other parts of his shot creation ability that come from his great footwork, IQ, and touch. Now the final thing I want to talk about is his playmaking ability. Whilst I kind of shitted on his handle before, he does have a little bit of shiftiness and craftiness to make some moves and counters. He can grab and go on the defensive rebounds and run the floor and find his teammates in transition, on cuts or open threes, or also just get to the rim for himself. But he's just not a great passer or anything. He needs to improve finding his teammates when he's double teamed. I don't think his playmaking is going to be an issue or anything. It's just most of the passes he makes are extremely basic, and I think it just shows his vision isn't particularly great, and he just doesn't have that feel and understanding for the game like some other prospects like Paolo Banchero have. But he does have a positive assist to turnover ratio, and given his extremely high usage, that is pretty impressive. So he is pretty controlled when he has the ball, and he doesn't turn it over too much. But there's just times where I'd like to see him read the game a little quicker and get the ball to where it needs to be earlier. As for a draft range for him, I think he'll go somewhere between 6 and about 12. I've seen him falling down a few big boards, and for me, I also think he's slipping a little bit, but I'm still very confident he'll end up being a lottery pick, and likely top 10 as well. But there's just some other guys that look amazing. And as for an NBA comp, I'd say offensively a little bit of Tobias Harris, but I'd say Keegan Murray will be a much better defender, but obviously Tobias Harris is a better shot creator. Alright, that's all I got for this one. Leave a like, subscribe for more. JBHOOPS.